England have shuffled the pack again today. We billed this chat as a selection dilemma for England. Is it a dilemma for England, or are they in such a nice position because they've got so many people vying for places in T20?
They are a very good side, aren't they, in limited overs cricket, whichever limited overs you talk about, 50 overs or 20 over, they're a top side. But even the top sides are always looking to get better and improve. So we're going to talk about the number 3 position here and death bowling in particular. But if you go back to the winter in India, all the talk was about power play wickets, wasn't it, at the top, in the opening 6 overs. And they improved in that area. They had Wood and Archer, Rashid bowled a little bit in the power play, and they managed to take wickets, which they hadn't done before. And I know Owen Morgan, before that series, that was one particular area of concern for him, and they managed to put that right. So I think there are always areas that you look at, that you say, can we get better? What are our options? But essentially, they're quite nice dilemmas for England to have, because they're a very powerful side, and whichever way they go, they've got plenty of options.
Are they getting the best out of Ben Stokes? I mean, I know Ben is injured for this series, but in general, in T20 cricket, are England getting the best out of Ben Stokes?
No, but only because of how good the others have been. Because the others have been so excellent that Ben does absolutely fine coming in at 5 or 6 and just bowling a couple of overs and being brilliant in the field, and Morgan will move him to one fielding position to another. Now, if the others were not doing their job and Ben was filling that role, then you'd say, well, hold on, you're wasting Ben Stokes. For me, I'd like to see Ben Stokes given a role further up the order, but that would have to mean breaking up a top order that's done very well. And the only position that it could be, and it's remarkable that we even talk about this man because he's still number 1 in the world in T20, is David Milan. Because if you learn from India, the areas of concern in India was that he used up deliveries in the power play and then got out. In other parts of the world, Australia, New Zealand, England, South Africa, where the pitches stay good, he catches up better than anyone else. The next World T20 is probably going to be Dubai, Abu Dhabi, the Emirates, and pitches can be slow and tired out there. So that would be the only possible change for me for Stokes.
But what do you think about that subject? Because is it less about David Milan and his stats and more about just giving England's premier player more airtime? Sorry,
can I interrupt that? No, it's not, because David Milan, you asked me who deserves to be number 3 at the moment. That's David Milan. So it is about giving the right to the lad who's done brilliantly, first to 1,000 T20 runs, averages 50, a very good strike rate. It's about him playing himself out of the side as opposed to, all right, we'll move Ben up there. David Milan deserves the right to stay at number 3 for a little while.
Well, I'm going to go to Kumar Sangakkara, who's in the pod just behind the camera that I'm looking at now, and just get your thoughts on it. I mean, Rajasthan have used Ben in a more productive way, can I say it in those terms, by having him up at the top of the order. Why did Rajasthan do that, and are England missing a trick by not doing that?
Well, I think one of the main reasons is we've got a very delicate balancing act in franchise cricket. Only 4 overseas players allowed. 7 Indian players to make up the numbers. So when we do select that, we try and get the best out of the individual, but also out of the batting unit. So Ben Stokes going up at the top is because Josh Buttler's ability to adapt and his 360 game, much like A.B. de Villiers, and they're 2 of the very few players who can do the tough roles at that number 4 and 5 positions, dominate the middle and finish off games. So those were the considerations. But to me, there is no argument when it comes to England that Josh Buttler should open without a doubt. And I would actually support Nasser in terms of getting Stokes to bat in the number 3 or 4 position rather than any further down. And for David Milan, I think he's done exceptionally well. But if the openers do get through the first 6 overs for England and David Milan is playing, it could be that he gets just pushed down the order and you send in your explosive hitters to try and take advantage. But if David Milan is in the side and you have got a good start, maybe a clear communication to him going out saying, you've got a limited number of balls, we want your strike rate to be at this. When you go in and try and encourage him to play a cameo rather than a longer innings. So there are many ways that you can do it. But I don't think Stokes' role or Butler's role for Rajasthan should be a consideration for the England roles, other than just to kind of ascertain form.
All right, well, let's just briefly talk about other batsmen. Moeen Ali, how best to use him? Should he be used like he's used in the IPL, as he's going to do today at 6? And Liam Livingstone has given them another option in that role, batting 3 today.
Well, we'll see Liam Livingstone today. There aren't many options there if you don't want to go with Dawid Malan. And Owen Morgan likes to play the same team. He is going to give Malan every opportunity. I think he's opened in 16 of the last 20 T20 internationals. But his form has been dropping, and if it continues to drop, it may be a change. It's not necessarily a given that if you do change, Ben Stokes is the man there. You could push Bairstow up. He's obviously been an outstanding player at the top of the order. The problem is there, then you have 3 right-handers at 1, 2, 3, and you have a whole raft of left-handers in the middle order. And we saw in the winter against India on slower pitches with cutters, that's not necessarily an advantage. I think I could make a very good argument for Moeen Ali at 3 in place of Ben Stokes, particularly if the World T20 is going to be held in UAE and spin in the power play is going to be a factor. If you actually look at the performances in the last 2 IPLs between Stokes and Moeen Ali and look at their strike rates and their boundary count, and if you took the names out of the equation and just looked at the pure numbers, you'd go for Moeen Ali. So England are blessed with options and alternatives there if Dawid Malan's form continues to decline.
What about with the ball? What are the decisions and things they need to focus on with that?
With the ball, the death bowling, without a doubt. I mean, I'm not putting it all on Ben Stokes, but it cost them the last World T20. They didn't get it right at the death. Ben didn't get it right at the death. So it's something they've got to do and do better. Last 2 games, these are the stats recently from England's death bowlers. In the last 2 games, they went for 25 in the first game at Cardiff, and Jordan went for 14 in the last game and the last over against a mediocre Sri Lanka side. So there are their options. There are other options outside the side, someone like Saqib Mahmood with his slingy Yorkers. I think Wokes is a good death bowler. I think he can get them in there. George Garton playing at Sussex, Tamal Mills. But these are sort of left field selections. I think the lads that are in possession have to get their Yorker bowling and their general death bowling better.
When Jofra Archer comes back, would you use him in the death overs, or would you use him more, again, IPL style, like his franchise does, getting wickets up front?
Well, wickets up front, but also Morgan liked to use him and Wood in the middle overs, didn't he? There's this kind of theory now that you have your battering ram bowlers in the middle because spin is proving to be a little bit expensive at that time. So you certainly want the options. I think they'll go Jordan before Curran. George Garton is the interesting one. I don't think Morgan will go left field with an alternative because, as we've seen in the build-up to the 2019 World Cup, he just likes to win and keep a settled side, and I suspect he'll want to do exactly the same before the World T20.
But he brought Archer in for Willie.
Yeah, but Archer was only because he's only just become available, and he's such an outstanding talent. I'd be very interested to watch Garton in 50-over cricket. He's come into the 50-over side. He bowls well, he's left arm, he feels like a gun, and he gives it some serious welly with the bat. So it'd be very interesting to see how he goes.
Do you think Owen knows his best 11 pretty much now? Do you think he's got it down on a bit of paper somewhere in a drawer?
Not quite as much as he had with 3 or 4 months to go for 50 overs. He had that one spot, who's going to be left out for Archer. I don't think so. I would have actually liked today Livingstone to stay in the middle order, because I think that's where he's going to bat in a World T20. So give him as much experience. I think that's the key now. Whoever's going to be your death bowlers, get them bowling at the death. Whoever's going to bat at 6, get him batting at 6. Whoever's going to bat at 3, give him the opportunity. It's now about getting some caps under your belt in the position that you will play.